Hey guys, it's JT and I'm bringing you another chess mistake video. Before we begin today's game, I have some pretty exciting news. I have a new chess analysis program called Ribka, which is considered to be one of the strongest chess analysis programs there is. So now when I give you guys recommended lines and things like that, they'll be a little more accurate than they were before. Up till now, I was using a program called Crafty, which comes with the Babas Chess interface, which isn't a bad program, but it's not Ribka. But now I have it, so I'm really excited about it. So anyway, getting into the game, I was playing a blitz game on the free internet chess server, and my opponent opened with knight f3, which is called the Reti opening. And a standard response is pawn to d5, and my opponent played knight to c3, attacking my pawn, so I just developed a knight and defended the pawn. And he pushed forward into the center, and I developed a knight. So this is reasonably standard stuff. It's been played before. Um, it's not exactly bookline Reti, but it's not bad. It's definitely playable for both sides. But one thing you might want to notice is that it looks on the surface very similar to this opening, which you may have seen a few times before. It's the Four Knights game. And this is a pretty standard opening, it's been played many, many times. It's not that popular on top level today, but it used to be a pretty standard thing. So one thing it's important to know about this is that a strong move here, or a common move at least, is d4. This is called the Scotch Four Knights game. And it's okay to push this pawn forward in line of this pawn, because even though it's attacked twice, it's also defended twice. So you're not really putting your pawn in too much danger here. It's a pretty standard thing. Unfortunately for my opponent, they assumed that I guess they saw this position, and they assumed that because that was okay because the d4 push was okay in the Four Knights game, this must be okay. Then in this position, e4 must be okay. That's not true though, because when you push to d4 in this position, you're defended twice. When you push to e4 in this position, your queen isn't defending this piece, or this pawn. So really, you're just giving up a pawn for nothing. So I just went ahead and took, and now my opponent brought his knight out of the way of my pawn because his knight was being attacked. So now now I just went ahead and grabbed this knight, because now this pawn, because this pawn was undefended by the knight now, because the knight was defending that pawn before. And while the queen is defending it, my queen's also attacking it. So it was basically a free pawn. So now he's in some pretty deep trouble. We're only 5 moves into the game, and he's already down 2 pawns in material, and he's moving around the board a lot. So now he tries to tried to gain some tempo and develop a piece and attack my knight. So I just moved it back where it had been. He moved his rook, which strikes me as a time-wasting move, especially considering this knight is undefended right now. But rather than go right ahead and grab the knight, I decided to take with the queen first because I wanted to simplify, and I was willing to allow him control the d file in order to allow an endgame to get reached more quickly. Especially considering this rook is can come under fire later if I bring my bishop up here, because the normal resort of blocking with the pawn wouldn't be possible because of this pawn right here. So I was more than willing to let him do that in order to reach an endgame more quickly. So now that he recaptured, I went and grabbed this knight, and he attacked the knight. Apparently, he didn't know or was willing to give up this pawn like this, but there's a rule in chess where if you have a pawn on the 5th rank and your opponent tries to move his pawn past your pawn, thereby escaping this square where it can be captured, You can just go ahead and take as if he had moved it here. It's called en passant, and I'm not positive about the French pronunciation exactly, but it means in passing in French. So now he came and he checked my king, and I blocked, and now he brought his bishop out of harm's way, or so he thought. Really, I could just take here. I didn't do that right away though because I wanted to take advantage of this pawn's presence here. So I went ahead and captured and got my pawn on the 7th rank, attacking this rook and threatening promotion. So he came forward, or he came over and got his rook out of the way and attacked the pawn, and I just defended it. And I let this bishop get away from me. I was not too happy about that, but I did do it. Um, so he brought the bishop back, and I pushed this pawn forward. I was kind of trying to give this bishop somewhere to go because I didn't really have any interest in getting it over in this area. It just didn't seem like it would be doing much. Um, Ribka actually puts this pawn move as better here and getting the bishop out here to point at the king side from the queen side. And looking back, that would have been better. But here, I just pushed forward. I was also looking to expand my pawns into the king side. So he moved his king out to come and start attacking this bishop. So I checked the king, forking the king and the dark squared bishop. He kept on with his plan, and I just went and captured his bishop. He captured mine, and then I captured his rook. I guess he missed the fact that when I got this bishop, I was also attacking the rook. So anyway, he recaptured, and I pushed forward again. And here, it might look like a natural move. He captured the pawn with his rook. Better here was to capture the pawn with his king. And better than either of those, according to Ribka, was to develop the knight. Because this knight is not playing a role, and when you're down in material, you need to make the most use you can out of all of your pieces. He didn't, however. He didn't develop. He didn't do anything like that. He didn't get his king to a safer square. He just blocked off his king's escape route by capturing the pawn. So yes, he got the pawn back, but he did it at the expense of king safety, and it was not worth it, as you'll see. I pushed forward again, just trying to get a nice little pawn structure going. Looking back, this was a bit of a waste of time. Um, so he pushed forward too. I was lucky here that he didn't do something a little more effective because I did waste some time with this. But he proceeded to waste just as much time. So I pushed forward here. And he came down. I will never, ever understand what this move was for. Um, he really should have been getting his king to safety, but instead he just allowed these attacks to come. And unluckily for me, I made a little mistake here. I didn't do anything that hurt my position, but I didn't make the best move. I should have done this. I should have checked the king with this pawn, closing up the position here a little more, and forcing his king to do something along either here or here. But I didn't. And note, you might be thinking, well, why can't he just capture? This seems like a free pawn. Well, if he captures, then the rook can come here, the king can come here, and the rook and black wins a rook. So that's not a favorable line for white at all. So that would have been a better line for me, just to close up the position a little more. But what I did wasn't bad. I checked on e7. So now the king came here to g3, and I pushed to g3, trying to close up this position. And here it was really important for him to come over to f2. That really would have been the strongest move, trying to get his king to some safety, trying to retreat it from this pawn storm. But he brought his knight up. I guess he was trying to do away with whatever threats were coming here. But as you'll see in a second, this knight ends up just hurting things. I push forward, and now because this knight is here, he has no escape square other than this. So now he comes here, and now after pawn to g4 check, he can't get away without a massive loss of material. The best he can hope for is to take with the rook, recapture, and then Ribka gives g2, king to g2 as the strongest move, after which there's a fork. So this, after this, white is in some pretty nasty territory. If he plays perfectly, he will lose a rook and a bishop. But what he did was even worse. He took with the bishop, and this is a mate in one after pawn takes, because now he's in double check. He's checked by both this pawn and this rook, which means he can't just like go ahead and capture this pawn because he'd still be in check by this rook, and he can't just go ahead and capture the pawn with the king because the knight is defending it. So he has to move, and he can't come here because of this pawn, and he can't come here because of this rook and because of this bishop. So this is checkmate. So anyway, guys, just because the main lesson to take out of today is that just because two positions seem like they look similar or seem analogous in some way, doesn't mean that they are the same and that the same moves will work. It's really important to understand why certain moves work in certain positions and why they don't. So that's what started this whole mess. And another thing to know is that when you have your king overexposed on one side of the board, you don't really need to be worrying too much about bringing your pieces forward to the position where your king is to try to combat any advances. What you need to do is you need to get your king to safety. So anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. My name's JT.